I did something wrong. There we go. Welcome to Humpday Q&A. How you doing? How's everyone doing? Right, we're here for another week.
This is what happens when you let someone drive who's accustomed to being on the other side of the road.
the correct side, right? So let's get going. So Scott will do introductions. We're going to flip this around this time. We're going to do our do's and don'ts first. So Scott, do's and don'ts.
Do's and don'ts. Be nice, be respectful, be constructive. This isn't Reddit. We do have standards. Don't post anything that's rude, offensive. I mean, come on, folks. This is common sense. This isn't the place to advertise your service, your business. It's not the place to say, please give me a job. Don't post the same question over and over and over and over again. We have a system where when we see your question, we put a star on it, and that bounces it to the bottom of the list. And if you ask it again, we're going to star it again. It's going to go to the bottom of the list, and we're going to take the star off the one that was higher. So every time you post the question, you're going to go back to the bottom. Now, harassment of any kind, of course, is not tolerated. You know, no misogyny, bigotry, any of that nonsense, you know, and homophobia, etc. And the last thing, if you're dumb enough to get banned here, we do share ban lists. So you get banned here, and 20 minutes later, you find out you can't log into Slack anymore. Oops.
Right. Moving on to the fun stuff, let's do some introductions. So, my name is Simon Leifer, Flutter Community Leader, also CTO of Dev Angels London, and you can follow me on Twitter at Dev Angels London. Scott.
I am Scott Stahl, Community Leader, Organizer, GDG Cleveland, Code Slave at Dev Angels London, and known for doing a few other things, including Flutter Talks.
And we have a Randall in the background. Randall, do you want to join us?
Hey, sure. Yes, good to be back again. It seems so long between weeks, but that's never long enough sometimes. I will be the question manager, which means I'll be watching the live chat right now for questions. And you flag the questions with Q in front of them, and I will flag them into the queue, alliterative word there, and we'll answer them. We'll get to them as quickly as possible. So I'm a Flutter Dart Google developer expert, which means, at least in theory, I know a little bit about Flutter and Dart.
More than a little. And we also have someone else joining us today. So let's bring John on. Hey, John, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me.
We have a defector from Microsoft.
Defector? No, I'm still at Microsoft. I'm actually in an office right now.
Cool. Nice uniform.
Just saying, how's all the dual screen flippy stuff going?
Yeah, the foldable stuff.
That's all.
Yeah, no, going good. We've got all of our contributions back into Flutter, so there's all kinds of good stuff in there that I think you've had Andre on from my team in the past to talk about the work that he did there to add a bunch of goodness back into the framework to support not just foldables, but large screen devices in general. So, you know, you start talking about like Samsung Folds and, you know, a lot of the work that's going on for Android 12L and stuff for larger screens, they all benefit from a lot of the stuff that we put into the framework for that.
Very cool.
Do you mind me asking? I mean, has Microsoft also been helping out with like the Windows integration side of things and making sure that's all sort of?
Yeah, there's a little stuff going on there. So we have, if you have a product called, well, if you have any Android phone, but if you have specific ones like Huawei or Samsung or the Duo or I think Honor is another one, we've got our link to Windows feature in those phones. You download an app to your Windows PC called Your Phone, and those will connect, and you get all the goodness of your Android device on your Windows PC. So you can run your Android apps in Windows. You can run all your notifications, everything come through. So we're doing a lot of work there to make Windows and Android integration better.
Nice.
Right. Well, we could talk for hours, and I want to make sure we get room for questions. So please do make sure you get your questions in.
Talk for hours for once.
Yeah. So we have a hard stop at the end of the hour. So get your questions in.
Yep. And 60 minutes today, folks.
Yeah. Randall, what's that thing you keep telling everyone? Send
Yes.
it to you.
Oh, so yes, people watch the show in the recorded mode after we've done it, which is still good because there's a lot of good content. But it's much better if you participate here live, because then you get your specific questions answered. Hopefully, if we have time, but you get your specific questions answered, and we have answered some amazing variety of questions over the months. Definitely cool. So everybody, invite your friends. We have a live stream right now. If you're watching it right now, then it's really live. If it's sometime later, then too bad you can't invite your friends. Invite them to next week's show. Subscribe to the channel. You'll find out.
Share the links.
Indeed. And thumb us up and all that other stuff too.
Oh no, I just saw one come in. Why not? Let's get straight to it.
Oh, did I accidentally push it in? I'm sorry.
That's fine. We want a question. Let's do it.
Okay. Boom. Question.
Boom. Done. Any experience trying Flutter developing using processing power of GitHub Codespaces or GitPod on devices like an iPad when traveling? Sadly, no.
Wow.
No.
Not.
Yeah.
I'm not taking advantage of any of those on the thing is, like, I suppose if you need to do a bit of coding on the fly, something like that, like you obviously got Zap now, zapp.run, which is Invitase's IDE in the browser using VS Code. It's based on the VS Code sort of code base, open source code base. And yeah, I find that using something like that is good. However, it doesn't feel like it has the depth of an IDE on your desktop. So I don't know enough about GitHub Codespaces and GitPod and how that works, so I couldn't say. But it's an interesting concept. It's always been an interesting concept because there's always a concept that's been going around for a long time. Like for many years, you can do this thing where you're running your host PC in an office, and then you remote desktop into that host PC, and you could do all your development there. And what you're receiving is just the same as what was the PlayStation thing they came out with, where you can play your PlayStation remotely or something. It's that same thing, right? You're just like streaming the end result of what you see, and your keyboard and mouse go to the remote computer. And there's the lag, obviously, the potential there, but you know that's kind of like where a lot of people want to go with this is where you kind of got a cloud development machine that's really high power that can be reuse more resources when required, and then everyone just has like a dumb terminal, which is what they were called back in the day. This is like going back to mainframes.
Yeah, well, imagine if you could just pop your phone and plug it into a monitor, and all of a sudden your phone is just that terminal to that back-end cloud PC. Yeah,
it's so funny too, because I mean, I'm going to date myself here, but I was trained a long time ago in the military, and we still had what they call mainframes, which was one big computer in one place, and all the other people used terminals that access the one computer. And then we went to people having computers in their homes, and now we're flipping right back to the computers being VMs in the cloud and using server-side rendering for the hardcore video. So what's old is new again.
Yeah.
That model of dumb terminals still has been around a lot longer here, at least as far as I remember. So things like a lot of stores. So things like over here, there's a rental store called Blockbuster, which used to rent videos, VHS tapes when those were a thing. And during the 90s, and that was all like each store would be like a dumb terminal for a central server, right?
Yep.
And so they could tell if you rent it out, you could give it back at a different store and all that kind of stuff, right? The same goes for our library system over here. Was used mainframe dumb terminals everywhere as well, and that was kind of a popular thing. I think this could make it sort of like, especially with like low power computing with ARM based devices, it'd be super simple now to have like a Wi-Fi connected like monitor, like integrated, like we call it all-in-one computer almost, right? But it just runs Linux, it's embedded, and it just runs the web, right? And then you could into anything, right?
Yeah.
It's interesting.
That's kind of the Chromebook model, isn't it?
Well, this
sort of, yeah.
Chromebooks do have like that's the weird thing, right? People talk about Chromebooks for like, was it using Chromebooks for development? and you end up having to install Linux and like sort of break out of the standard environment, because the standard desktop environment is just a browser on steroids. To me, that's what it feels like, right?
Yep.
Like it gives you a settings screen with like for printers and to do other stuff, but it is still a browser, right? Like you've got a little desktop environment, but it's not the same. I don't know something about it, right?
Yeah, it's not like packaged apps or anything like that that are running on it.
Yeah.
They're browser based. Yeah.
I don't know what the difference is between the two. Is this just me feeling old fashioned and feeling like we should have a separation between those two things? I don't know.
We just need Fuchsia Book. Where's Fuchsia Book coming?
Yeah,
Fuchsia Book should be here.
Right. Let's thank you very much for your question, Cam.
Yes.
Who we got next? James Johnson.
Never heard of this guy.
Can we please create Windows Flutter Desktop with VS Code and not VS Studio?
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Well, I mean, you can still create it with VS Code. You can still edit it in VS Code, but you're still going to need Visual Studio to compile it. Right. And that's just about the compilation suite. So there is dropping as from what I remember, and this may not work with Flutter, but you're still going to need a C++/C sort of compiler and linker and everything to get to work. And you need and because the tooling is built to work, it has to be built to sort of target a specific one. Then it's targeted for Visual Studio. However, I know Intel's compiler is Visual Studio compatible. I don't know what that means in now, because it's been a long time since I've used it. But they would always push the fact that you could just drop in the Intel compiler as a replacement for the Microsoft compiler. Yeah. But all in all, I mean, it's you don't need the entirety of Visual Studio. You do not need like the IDE. You just need the tool chain.
Yeah, and that's yeah. I mean, ideally that'd be it, right? It'd be somebody, maybe even here us at Microsoft, creating a package that would just give you the tool chain that you need installed in the proper location, so that you can, from VS Code, compile for Windows and not have to have Visual Studio full installed.
I don't know. Honestly, it's been so long, because when you install VS Code, this might be an older version. I haven't looked at the recent. Like the installer would let you choose which Windows SDK, and do you want to compile for C++? Do you want to compile for UW, Universal Windows Platform, and would you like to compile?
For Visual Studio, yeah.
Give you all the different packages, and all you really need is the C++ tool chain.
Right.
In that sort of selection, you shouldn't need like the 2 gigabytes of like IDE and all sorts of the rest of it, right? So you should be able to then call VC vars, which is the sort of environment variables. You should be able to call it in your VS Code runner to like start it up and compile it. I don't know if Flutter would still compile with just the tool chain. Try it out. Yeah. So let us know.
Yeah.
We'll be here next week. I know. How would you pronounce it? Jannik? Is that Jannik Rhode? I don't know. Any experience or tips for mobile app analytics tools with Flutter other than Google Analytics with Firebase? Open source or self-hosting are big pluses. There is one that I've used before and it escapes me. The thing is, a lot of analytics is more about, it's not really the app. Like mobile analytics, there's tons of like libraries out there, first of all, that do this kind of stuff. But there's lots of third-party providers. You don't have to go with Google Analytics. And all it kind of revolves around is storing when events happen during your application's runtime. So when it's running it, you visit a page, it records the page visit you visit. You open up a particular item, it records that you've opened up that item, and the event, the time that it occurred, and they all get batched up and sent in one big bulk, like once a day or something, or twice a week, whatever it is. You just send in bulk all up to the analytics server, and then you can get to look at those analytics from the server side. The power in all of this is the server side, right? So there are a couple of open source analytics tools, and they have APIs. What was the name? I can go dig it out, actually, I think. Speak amongst yourselves. Let's see if I can find this.
Yeah, I was just looking through trying to see if I could find a list.
I did some research on this, and for something we were doing. Where was it? The one time I won it, I can't remember it. Anyway, I'm gonna like skip that because it's not in the place I thought it was. So, it's gonna, as soon as I see the name of it, it'll come back to me here. Let's do a quick Google, see if it pops up. That's it, Mtho. Mtho.org. So, yeah. And I can actually, can I bring this up on stream? I don't know, let's see. Stop that sharing. So it went by another name, and then so this comes up on stream. There we go. So this is there's a paid for licensed one, and there's an open source variant of it. You'll find it on GitHub. There you go. So they support. Yes, that was it. Formerly PWiki. Piwik. Yeah, that's the name that it. There's also a Piwik Pro, I think it's called, which is like the that's the one. This is like their professional sort of self-hosted. They host it, and then you can log in and get all like the stuff, right? But you can always use the Mtho one, which is the open source package, and the package download it in. And then there's an API. I don't remember if there's a package for this. I feel like if I remember rightly, there is a package for it, but what do I?
Yeah, there is. There is. Yeah.
Mtho tracker. Don't ask me how good these are or what they're like. I don't remember. But yeah, you plot this in and then you just send your events, and this will batch them up and send them up to the server, and then you can use Mtho has like a plugin system, and you can if you want the plugins and some of the other things, you might have to pay for them and so on, but you can always do your own, right? But yeah, there you go. One of many. Hope that helps.
Let's keep moving here because we've only got an hour, 40 minutes.
Ridz Creations. Sometimes Flutter apps don't work in Android SDK 28 when it works fine in SDK 30, 31. I mean, what do you mean why it doesn't work? That's not clear enough. Yeah. There's literally nothing I can help you out here.
Did that functionality be introduced in 30 or?
I was going to say that the biggest thing I would say is that probably a plugin that you're compiling with requires SDK this or whatever. Now I want to be clear that there's a confusion always with Android, which is you have your compile SDK and you have your target SDK. They're two separate things. You compile always with the most recent version. That's ideal, and then you target whatever the greatest version is that you can, whatever the greatest you can get away with, right? So this would be normally less than your compile SDK version, right? So this might be happening that you compile with 33, but you target 28, right? Each new version of the target is the target SDK is what Android uses to determine what features your app can support. For example, when they added like permissions dialogues, that I can't remember what version it came in, 25 or something, I don't know. If you targeted 25 or above, that's it. You've got the permission dialogues. You had to use them, right? And that meant you wanted all the latest features as well, right? So it's their way of introducing new features that don't break old apps by targeting newer versions.
Now, didn't the Play Store change a couple of years ago? Did they change to a minimum of 27 or 29?
I have no idea what the minimum now. They keep up, obviously, because they want to keep ahead, right?
Yeah, and before targeting 28, make sure that the Play Store will even accept it. Yeah.
There is, I don't know what it is. Play Store min API version. Apparently, meet Google Play's target API requirements. Look, let's have a quick browse since we're here.
New apps say 31.
Is there any minimum?
New apps.
Yeah, 31.
Yeah, this. I'll post this thing. This is interesting because this kind of goes through what I was just talking about. So if you didn't quite get it, reading that might help. Yeah, migrate different levels. You said 21, did you say?
31.
Oh, 31.
So yeah, Ridz, you'd be spinning your wheels the minute you could get it to work for 28. You wouldn't be able to upload to the store anymore.
It says it. Test the app compiles API 29 without errors.
Yeah, if you scroll all the way to the top, I think you're on the same page I am. Right there,
target 31 and
21,
higher.
31, yeah.
Except where OS apps, which must target Android 11, 30.
30,
higher.
yeah.
Starting November 2022, app updates must target 31 or above. Adjustments for behavioral change in Android 12, except for Wear OS. There you go.
So yeah, don't even waste your time with anything targeting less than 31.
Yep.
There you go.
Gotta watch that stuff. All right.
Oh, look. No, they're actually targeting 30.
32
level
for
32 in 2023. So they've got to do this, right, to stop the fragmentation of the operating system.
Yeah.
It's just
Otherwise it ends up with a bunch of patches. Okay, moving on. Is there any way to compile the tests to an executable file? Then you can take that file to run anywhere to test input any Flutter code. Doesn't really work that way. You have to write the tests for the things that are in your app.
Then I can take that file to run anywhere to test any input Flutter code I want. Well, that's just a library. You can create a package. You can always create a package that uses the Flutter test library, and then you can then import that into any one of your programs and use that package. Just
you
like
could say do X test and feed it the widget, right?
Or if you've got like common things that you want to do, make yourself a library. I don't know. Most test cases and most things you put in Flutter tests are unique to the app that you're testing, so that's why there's not really a common use case for that. Right. But if there's common actions you're performing that you use, or you have a common maybe backend library that you put in all your apps, I don't know, whatever, then you could always make a separate package.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to create a dynamic gradient across several widgets. Colors of that gradient will change. Need some help or a starting point. When I saw this, I kind of got the wheels turning, although that's not the symbol for wheels turning. Anyway.
Maybe for you.
This actually is simple, but not necessarily simple to type it all out. What you want to do is you want to create one gradient, and you want to be able to share it across widgets, and as it changes, have them update. So this means you're going to be dropping it into some type of state management. Remember, anything with an X is experimental and doesn't work very well. So you probably want to stick with something like RiverPod or just use vanilla. Then what's going to happen? I'm sorry? Well, no, the theme extension, do we really want to be doing a theme extension with things that are stateful and dynamic?
Well, no, you could
that can get a little weird.
Well, it depends on
how dynamic.
Well, or is it just that the reuse, right? So this time the colors might be.
Sorry, we're only halfway. You create one gradient, and then you can manipulate that gradient however, and every time it changes, it updates. Yeah. So far, so good. For each one of your widgets that's using that gradient, set different stops. So you can copy the gradient, maybe do a copy with, and change the stops. So this widget will use this part of the gradient, and this widget will use this part.
There's, just like you say, you want to use a gradient across several widgets, as in like you want to span across several widgets, or you want it to just be used multiple times, multiple widgets. Because if you just want to use multiple widgets, then you bring the idea is that you lift the state up, right? So you don't have it in each widget, you lift it above all those widgets. So wherever the common point is of all those widgets, that's where you have your state. And a lot of the time and then since this is maybe about the display of things, it's the theme, right? So for me personally, the first thing I went to is if I needed to use a gradient in several widgets, then I would lift it up to a theme extension. That's a custom, essentially a custom theme. And then you could access that gradient from multiple widgets. And those widgets would just be use a box decoration or box decorator or something.
Yep. I was reading it like Scott was, that they had, a grid like we've got here of the 4 videos, right? And they wanted the same gradient applied starting in the top left corner through to the bottom right. Well, that's 4 different video widgets that you're going to deploy. And that gradient needs to be separated amongst them. So I was kind of following the same place.
Yeah, and
Scott
if you're going to use one gradient with different stops, you're going to have to do a copy with.
Yeah.
You don't actually need to do that. So there's a clever thing you can do, and you can take if you raise up your widget to the top. If you raise that state up to the top again, you can have a widget that has the size of the screen. You make a gradient. You do what's called it's actually just the gradient constructor. So you have the normal UI gradient, which you just give the stops, but then from gradient you create a shader, and that shader you give it the XY coordinates on the screen where it's going to be rendered, and then what you can do is you can just offset that based on where it is relative to the parent, and that way
you're talking about
showing
the way they do something in gaming where there's one image and each individual
it's one. So a gradient in Flutter, UI gradient returns a shader as a create shader function. That create shader function takes a rectangle. The rectangle is its absolute position on the screen. So what you can do is you can have a gradient that covers the entire portion of the screen, right? You don't display that, but you make an object that would. Then what you do is you use that gradient in, let's say, a custom painter or any sort of paint or anything like that, and then you're only displaying a portion of it that's relative to the position.
It's like you're doing a clip almost of the
Yeah, it's not. See, the thing is, you're not painting the rest of it, right?
Clip.
But yeah, it's kind of like a reverse clip.
Carlo, where, please? Shoot us a link. Oh, shoot, you can't shoot us a link.
Well, he
Tell us what
it is in the comment.
Yeah, just tell us the title of it and we can search it.
Yeah.
That'd be good to find.
There's also
see, but that's the kind of thing you need to know more than just Flutter to do it Simon's way.
Yeah. Well, there's a package called Shimmer, which I helped make with one of the guys from the community, and that does that kind of like shimmer effect while stuff loads.
Yeah, it was a while ago.
And that literally does it that way. That's how I know how to do it because we did the research then. That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, go look up the Shimmer package if you want an example.
All right. Missing plugin exception sometimes happens. Can you list common cases where it happens? Explain the reason how to avoid it when you have a plugin missing?
I can tell you exactly why this happens. No. I can tell you exactly why this happens and the common use case that every Flutter developer falls into. They hot reload so often that they add a package to the YAML and then they hot reload expecting it to work. The dark code will hot reload, but the native code will not. Nope. You need to start your app up again, and it will be compiled with the native Android code and native iOS code, whatever it is you're compiling for, and then you won't get missing plugin. Missing plugin exceptions when the dark code cannot find the native code.
Yep. And this is a great time for a beginner/intermediate lesson. Remember, hot reload just injects the new state into the running Dart code. Hot restart recompiles the Dart code without going and fetching new dependencies and rerunning Gradle. Cold start goes and fetches your dependencies from PubSpec YAML, and big one, it goes through all your fonts, your images, your sounds, and builds lists of what's in those assets. So it builds your asset lists. Then it compiles the Dart code. So if you drop a picture or a sound, okay, or a new font into your assets, and then you hot reload, it's not going to be able to be used because it's not in the list. It only creates that list when it actually runs pubget. So you have to shut it down, run pubget, restart cold for any assets changes, including the plugin.
I'm gonna say there's you'll find there's generated plugin registrant. This is several bits of code that are generated in each of the native projects and in Dart web as well. And that's the bit of code that actually calls each one of the plugins initializers. So if you want to know what plugins you're going to get, that's the list.
Okay. How can we build a secure Flutter app? put on a lock screen with a really complicated password.
Yes.
I mean, so first of all, there's secure means a lot of things, right?
Okay.
Like secure from what? Secure
What was that
how?
company at Flutter Vikings?
That's the company that makes FreeRasp. Let me bring up the package.
Yeah.
Because they got a nice flyer and everything about
So-
being able to secure your apps and
So,
et cetera, et cetera.
RASP is runtime. No, wait a minute. I'm going to forget what it's called now. Runtime app self protection. And here is. Let me bring this up. This. There we go. Yeah. So there's a package called FreeRasp. Talsec is the company that make this. There's lots of options, but basically, yeah, this will combat and tell you, and you'll get callbacks when people try to install it on a rooted device and whatever else, and you get to choose what you want to do.
Yeah,
your code.
You want to back up a little bit, Si? Because it's a little hard for people to see there, but up a little higher. There we go, right there. Rooting, jailbreaking, hooks, app binding, brute force, botnets, DDoS. You know,
Yeah, I was going to show
if you
you.
want to build a secure app, then maybe
if we
this
go
is
further down
working.
here. Yeah, so if we go further down here, you get callbacks for those different events. So yeah, it says jailbroken device detected, simulator detected, whatever it is, and then you get to say and run some code to do whatever you want, like exit the app, shut it down, clear the app data, who knows what. Like, you know, you get to choose whatever you want to do. So that kind of can help. You've also got like just generally securing an app. So that's just like active. That's runtime security. You've got compile time security, as in like, let's say you've got an API key. If you include any string, there's like a single quote, double quote inside your app with some text in it. That string is put into your final application as is. No magical stuff done to it. It is a string. If you open up, let's say this is iOS, you create a .app file. Go in there, you'll find there's a binary. This is just probably your name of your program, right? So it'd be like it's either runner or it's the name of your app, whatever it is. If you literally just open that up in a hex editor, or there's normally a program called strings. Honestly, this is just literally on your command line, type strings and then the name of the file, and it will list out all the strings that it finds inside the file, which will include all your API keys. And this is like how simple it is for people to like extract API keys. So the protection around that is to use like the crypto library, and you can AES encrypt the strings before you put them in. You put the series of bytes in there, and you decrypt it at runtime. Or you could just do XOR and have a simple XOR one in there. Like, it's as long as it's not a sort of text string, then you've sort of given that level of hardness to sort of reverse engineering. But
all your API keys need to be emoji. So if you switch all over to emoji, it won't be found by strings.
Yeah.
All right.
But saying this, like all of they want to be clear, there is no foolproof security mechanism, right? Like, because at the end of the day, the code is running, and that's the app that you've built is running on someone else's hardware, someone else's device. They can do whatever they want with that. You know, if they're running their own operating system and they want to like hack it and do whatever they want to do, then they're going to get around those protections. If FreeRasp, for example,
obfuscation is for.
only detects certain things, and yeah, and that's another thing. So there's also there's actually a page on the Flutter SDK which I have here. 1 second. I literally was looking at it just moments ago.
We have a dog going out in the background here, and we're going to have to go faster than 2 questions a minute.
We'll get there. We'll get there. Hang on. This is it. Hang on. It's up on the stream here. So there's a section, and I'll list this up on here. I'll bring this. There's a whole obfuscating dark code, and this is a page that tells you how to build your app with obfuscation. This will literally obfuscate all your stack traces, so there needs to be a way to get them back. It can be. This is if you really want to go down the rabbit hole. If you're building like an app for like a bank or something, you probably wouldn't do that. Yeah. But for most apps, you don't need to worry about it at all. Not even remotely. All right, moving on.
All right.
Okay.
No more questions, please. It looks like we're probably not going to be able to get all these. Pagination.
Maybe.
Let's hit this one quickly. Simon and I ran into this in a production app recently, and in the end, I also talked to Doug Stevenson about it. To do pagination as most people think about it, Firebase can't handle it. Now, if you have just a JSON file, you can download the whole thing and then break it up inside your app and then only go download the media, the images, the videos, whatever, as you go along. But that's not true pagination. And we ended up, you're redoing the database in an SQL database, right?
Yeah, you can paginate with Firebase, but you can't paginate sorted, like multi-sorted column stuff.
You can't resume at a certain index mark.
You don't, and here's most people have problems with pagination because they do an offset with an index. You don't say give me the items from 0 to 100 and then give me from 100 to 200, 200 to 300, because items are getting added and each time everything shifts along, right? So you're always going to be getting back some of the same items potentially if new data is coming in. So instead what you do is you always send back a request with the most recent ID and say give me 100 from this point onwards. So you're always going to be reference the point that you were last looking at. And then when you pull to refresh, you reset that reference to blank or the very beginning or something, right? And this is how most pagination works. How can I paginate? It's just, it's like, as in with an API, with UI, there's so many things.
Isn't it confusing? There are many ways to do the same thing in Flutter. No.
Yeah.
No, really, it's not. Well, okay, I always get stuck trying to figure out which solution is the best. Welcome to programming to Flutter.
It's good to have choice.
State management.
It's good to have so many
Welcome
choices.
to state management.
It's not just Flutter.
Don't even start that.
Well, this is programming, right? But also you're saying about the same thing. It's not necessarily done, like there are different ways to do the same thing, sure. But that makes them different, right? The outcome may be the same, but the way it occurred is different. And that makes it completely different. So what you're asking is which methodology is best, and that depends on your use case. And that's why you choose one over another one.
Yep.
So need more information.
Well, I think it's a general thing. It's just, if there was only one way, then you wouldn't have to compare them. But if there was only one way, then it would work great in some cases and lousy in others.
Sure, but I'll give you an example here. Like the one that I always give, before we jump into another question, the one I always give is like container. It's like you can have a container with padding set on it, with a padding parameter, with a padding, edge insets, blah, right? Or you can have a padding widget with it, a padding widget with the padding sort of set. And they are both they both achieve the same result. However, you've now added the container adds another widget to the hierarchy. Yeah. It adds some logic that runs. It adds some other stuff, but the end result is the same. Now, in some use cases, I want to use but in some cases, I want to use a container because I may want some of the other features that container gives me. I may use an animated container because that provides me some stuff, right? And I can still do the padding there. Whereas for most use cases, padding is all I need, so I'm going to use the padding widget, right?
Right.
So, Yeah. Go on.
Is there something like a linter rule I can enable that warns me when I try to use an equals instead of a colon for name parameters by mistake?
Yes. There you go.
Blurt it out. Let's go.
It's always wanted since Dart 2, and so you need to set the minimum SDK version to probably Dart 2.12 or above in your YAML file, in your PubSpec YAML file.
2.17.
Well, no. I'm just saying. I think it was 2.12 that introduced that.
Yes, 2.12
range.
Sure.
But yeah, if you're looking for the linter rules, I've posted a link to them in the chat, and just to show, there's a huge list on that link, supported lint rules, and you can go add any number of these, right? And there's probably one. There's the named parameters here. Avoid types as parameter names. Always put required parameters first. Always put names first. I don't know. But
I've never seen one for a colon, but then again, I don't think I've mistyped it.
Dart 1 accepted colons to separate name parameters, and then Dart 2 changed that.
But that's not what they're talking about.
I think this hasn't been a warning. I don't think this was ever a warning. I think this is a warning the compiler emoted.
Yeah.
And it wasn't controllable by analyzer and lint and stuff.
Yeah, no.
Well,
I don't think it was
if
the
you
linter
type it
thing.
out wrong though, shouldn't you just get a red line and?
No. Both are accepted. Both are still
Yes.
accepted. You can still compile with both, but there's a warning from the analyzer about using the other one, and that came in, I think, in 2.12 or 2.15 or something like that.
Maybe Elijah has it. Prefer equal for default values. See if you can find that.
Okay, but that's going to be in the constructor.
Yeah.
No, but that is it. That this is if when you add a new parameter, good equals this. That's the one. There you go.
Good call, Elijah. Thank you.
Nice.
Problem solved.
How in the world do you get? No, that's bad. Scroll down one.
Good, right there. Equals. Wow.
Okay, you could see it, but we couldn't because I had it covered with the question. But Simon, the question is, if they use equals, they want a linter rule to tell them to change it to a colon.
No, the other way around, it wasn't it?
The other way
I
around.
thought he was asked. He wanted the other way. Or when I try to use equal instead of, oh yeah.
Yeah, no. You want the equals.
Yeah, you don't want to use colon anymore. Yeah.
You could turn off the, by the way, you can set this to false. So the rule that you're getting is because this is enabled by default in the Flutter lint package or the lint package.
Yep.
So if you go into your linter rules, you can set this name and put false at the end, and it won't.
I'm not
it won't
reading this at all like
it.
that. I don't know where you guys are getting, because what I'm thinking is like container color colon.
Yes.
Whereas versus container color equals.
No. It's the default value. When I try to use an equals instead of this for name parameter definition, that's what this is.
That question at all.
No, but that's what this is. You can't put equals in
Christian,
those places.
when you're talking about this, are you talking about when you're actually writing the widget for the constructor? Okay, he says yes, Scott is right. See?
Ha.
What are you talking about?
That.
It's a first. No,
Somebody take a screenshot.
No. Bring up the question. No, it says for name parameters by mistake. Oh, hang a minute. Warns me if I try to use an equals. I see. No, there isn't one.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's an interesting one.
Not that I know of.
Backwards.
But while Christian is here,
It's not declaration. It's the implementation. And
yes. Yeah.
And while Christian is here, I do want to mention something. Christian has won. Okay, the Great Fork.
Nice.
I love it.
So yes, if you weren't here, we had a comment. I can't remember who called it the Great Fork.
I can't remember now. Yeah.
Ta-da! So we have a Great Fork now. And
we
also,
have many
Christian
questions.
is the one who goes back through and paginates our streams and lists out all the different questions.
Yes.
Let's see.
Thank you for that.
Moving on. Thank you very, 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 very much. Will we be coming to India? Are you paying for the airline tickets?
Yeah, right.
No.
I will be. You know what? I'm happy to jump on the plane, but I don't have it. So somebody's got to cover that.
It's a long, expensive journey.
No, I'll be in London next month.
Long from the US.
And
it's a very long
there are
trip
several
to
people
India.
who come from India to the US. Believe me, they know it well.
Yeah.
Flutter tools for reports like Microsoft reporting services I can use with Flutter. This sounds like a job for someone who's familiar with Microsoft.
Yeah, I don't know of any specific for reporting services.
What is Microsoft reporting services?
It's just the back end to generate a report with data, but specifically for Flutter, I mean, I haven't done anything where I had to do anything to do that. So,
I mean, you could if you're using you could just take whatever data you're reporting, chuck in SQL in MS SQL server, and then use Microsoft reporting services.
Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah, in the back end, sure, yeah, yep.
I mean, yeah. I thought there should be a better answer to that. Sorry.
Is there something in like Storybook in the React world that allows you to easily isolate and iterate on widgets while you're developing them?
Yes.
Like that?
Yes. Yes.
Widget book.
Like
Yes.
widget book, yeah.
Widget book is literally meant as a Flutter version of Storybook that's in the React box. There you go.
Simon
That's
and I
exactly
got
what
to
you want.
hang out with Jens and Lucas in Oslo. Jens and Lucas are
Flutter
behind
Viking.
this. And widget book 2.41. The one thing I will say about it, the
depends on
auto-generated
Go
code is going to depend on how you structure your folders. You have to pay attention to that. And also, one thing that you want to do is be sure that you look at the examples. All right. Especially the knobs examples. Because if you go into the knobs, I'm hurrying, and you look at all these different use cases, that will tell you how to use the knobs, which is a big deal. But yeah, and also if you pay attention to the auto-generated file and look at the structure and understand the structure file, for now, I'm not using the auto-generated. I'm just writing my own manually, and it works great. Other than auto-generating the menu, you need this.
It also currently depends on Go Router. So you may have collision with that, just FYI.
Yep. Alrighty. Let's see here. I just giving a glance real quick. Yeah, we stopped taking questions a while ago. We've got 6 left in 11 minutes. So what's the difference between software rendering and GPU rendering? Is threeJS GPU rendering or software? Can we implement something like that in Dart?
There's a package called threeJS Dart or something, 3Dart, something.
Yeah.
Fine. And it is literally that. It's a
Hub
re-implementation
dev.
of threeJS.
3_Dart, right?
So yes, we can implement something like that in Dart. Somebody did.
3_Dart.
Now, if you notice, it's really early. It's 0014.
Yeah,
that doesn't mean anything.
It doesn't really mean much.
Ship it.
No, that's awesome.
This will allow you to do all this kind of fun stuff. Just hang on. Anyway, this will do like the fun stuff. Anyway, the point here is it's based around Flutter GL, which makes it hardware rendering. And this kind of answers your second point to your question. It is, do we lose John?
I think we lost John. I do want to point out one interesting factoid.
Hey, John.
I'm back. Yeah, I don't know what happened. It just disappeared.
Yeah.
Right here, 3Dart 0014. 0014 was the build Flutter was on when I first started Flutter.
Yeah.
Now you're showing your age. Now,
September 2017.
Anyway, the second part is what's the difference between software rendering and GPUs rendering? Or one is uses your CPU and the other one uses GPU. There you go. So the point here is, you want to use threeJS or 3Dart or anything that uses hardware rendering. Everything you do on a canvas in Flutter is hardware rendered. Those canvas instructions are sent to the GPU and those rendered on the GPU. So just FYI, there's software rendering is not a thing. Yeah, go on. Not in most things. Here we go.
What's the best way to maintain a Bluetooth connection in the background?
Use a foreground service in Android. This is a platform specific behavior. And at this point, you're like, well, if you're trying to do this, then you probably want to develop your own little plugin for your app, and that would probably be a better approach than it would be to implement like the Bluetooth plugin and a background plugin and try and bring it all together. At this point, just honestly, Flutter create whatever name -t plugin, which is the template for plugin, and start putting together some native code for Android and iOS.
And Johnny, please don't spam. Your question was that one and the last one, so I'm knocking it off the last one there. This is a question for John. What's the best? How do you set? Okay, first of all, how do you set a window size and position of a desktop Flutter app when you start it?
A desktop Flutter app.
Isn't that information actually kept in Windows?
Yeah, because it remembers the last, like once you've run, it remembers last settings and stuff like that. But setting it at startup, I don't know if you can, other than set max or.
Oh, Simon's got that smell where he knows
I have an answer.
He looks like he has an answer. Yeah.
I have the answer.
Yeah.
Your initial size of position is in set in main.cpp in the Windows folder. Windows folder.
You'd have to go change it then.
Yeah. If there's a special value that if you set it to, which is what John's talking about, CW_use default. If my brain serves me correctly, it's been a while.
Sounds right. Yeah.
And that's it's in all in capitals. CW. I'm going to check. I'm just going to Google that just to make sure.
How does he remember this stuff?
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah.
CW use default, and basically what that does is it tells Windows to remember and use the one that it remembered for the position of. Pop in the chat.
Yeah.
So you can do that for your X and Y position. And then when they close the app, when it reopens, it'll open in the same position it was last in. And you don't have to do any coding to make it work.
Nice.
You can change the window size and position with bits dojo _window, which is a package. There's a few other packages on Pub, but the one that I've used before and Bits is done some good work there. Bits dojo _window. And I'll just pop that open here just so you can see what I'm talking about. It's this package here, and this allows you to do like custom, window controls, all that kind of fun stuff. They are set the min max size, set the window position tile, all the usual stuff you kind of want to do.
And that's just making those changes under the covers for you. So
yeah. And then
the last question is going to take a little bit. So
we
want to move on here. This is the next to last. Is it possible to test code of a video player without actually running the video player?
Yes.
You can run tests.
He said, "Is it possible?" He said, "Yes."
What are you going to expect? What's your expectation?
So go look at the video _player package, and you'll find there's some test cases in there that do exactly this. They mock the interface, they mock the method channel that Dart code calls for the native code, and then the native code itself isn't called or used. So you won't actually be running any video player. You'll just be accessing an interface, and then you have to return what your app respects for the interface. But that's how you test that kind of code. So yeah, if you've got a video player and so on and so forth, you can use the Flutter App plugin interface, overwrite the implementation with a default test one that just returns mock data. And that's exactly how tests for plugins work. So if you go into the video of Flutter/plugins in GitHub, github.com/Flutter/plugins, packages, video player, you'll find the example test cases in there that you can copy. There you go.
All righty. Sorry, I have a drinking dog in the background, but we have 4 minutes, and this is actually a pretty good question. I want to know about migrating packages from an old version to new ones. Any recommendations? First of all, you got to look at how old are you. Wow, if you're like really old, you could be pre-null safety. You could even be pre-strong typing.
Is this migrating an actual package source code or migrating my app to different sets of packages, like updating my dependencies?
The way it's worded, I would go, it's migrating the packages that you're using to newer versions of those packages in your app.
Yeah, and then the question is, well, there's a couple of ways this could be looked at. So are you talking about needing to update the package, or you update the package and your app breaks?
Imad, if you post an update in the chat, we'll bring it up. Otherwise, we'll just try and we'll carry on with what we're thinking. Oh, here, it just says here from 2 to 215. So updating Dart, for example, and then your app. So there's Dart fix. There you go.
Yeah, that'll get a lot of it.
That'll get a lot of
migrating a package from an old version to new one. Yeah, so I mean that's back to what we were thinking originally, right? That it's you've got a list of packages that you're got in your YAML file, and you want to 3 of them are have newer versions. What do you do?
Well, sorry, when he said that, I think I was reading that as he's talking about upgrading his package from Dart to Dart 215.
See, but if you take that with the other one. It sounds to me like it's more like I have packages that I'm using that I know have new versions. I want to update. What's the best way to go about it, right?
Carefully.
As far as
carefully.
yeah, right. It's one by one and see what breaks. I mean, if you don't want to,
that's the thing.
It's our
that I
job
was
as a
gonna say.
programmer.
Even after using Dart Fix and going through, there are some null safety problems you're just not going to find until runtime.
Yeah.
Simon and I fought with this on a customer's app for how long? 4 months.
I don't know. It depends on how you port it, right? But the thing is, there's also things that you do differently when you're doing null safety, which you just have to edit the code and to do migration. Right. I assume the other thing is if you're upgrading dependencies, the thing you have is you upgrade one, and then you update another one, and that depends on a transitive dependency, and it gets really complex. And you're right, yeah, exactly. I was about to say,
well, you can do the
really complex.
There's the what is it, pub update outdated or something? What's the command that gives you the list of what you and then gives you some of that dependency?
Yeah, pub updated. Yeah. There's not much you can. I mean, if you're the best thing you can do is take each dependency one at a time and look at the changelog on pub.dev and see what's changed. If they outline breaking change, then pay attention to that one. You're going to have to update code, right? But the point here is you got to do it piecemeal, and sadly, you can always update by major versions. So if you go look at the version releases of Dart, you can always upgrade bit by bit. So you're not dealing with everything all at once. When you go from version 1 of Dart to going to version 2, what are we on, 218 now or something, would just be insane. It would break everything. And but doing it bit by bit, maybe that's not too bad. But yeah, at the end of the day is everything's got to change eventually. So,
no easy way. You can go step by step and resolve issues as you go.
This is the same with all. This is not just something to do with Dart or Flutter. This is all programming. And the other key side of this is that, generally you want to do maintenance on your apps or maintenance on your contracts for apps, and make sure that you're keeping them up to date. This is part of maintenance, keeping all the dependencies up to date, keeping them up to date, so you never fall too far behind that it becomes a problem. So, yeah, and also listen to the Flutter Announce Google group. Flutter-announce, that I think it's Flutter-announce, that contains the breaking change announcements. So when they release new versions, this is going to tell you what's deprecated, what they're breaking, all these future changes. So it's called Flutter-announce. It's a Google group.
Let me also.
It's on the Flutter website.
Well, there's also a public document that Kate puts out.
Here's the Google group. I'll pop this in the chat. There you go. You'll see that actually, that literally is right here. I'm going to bring this up on stream since we're here. You go, look, break and change, deprecations expiring after 3.3. Go to here. Here's the thing.
I was just looking for that email.
Yeah, here's all the blah blah blah. This is going to break. This is the removal PR, and this is supported by Dart Fix. Yes, these two are. So, if you're using these things, you can run Dart Fix and it fixes it. And there'll be all sorts of announcements and things.
Okay, and can we get a link to that doc since it is public? I stopped looking for it when you found it.
I posted in the chat already. The Flutter
that's to the spreadsheet.
It's to the thing that contains the spreadsheet. Yes. Okay. The link to the spreadsheet. But all the announcements go in there.
It's 1 after the hour. I have a dog to take care of. I'm sure everybody heard. And Simon, you've got somewhere you've got to be, right?
Yeah, we've got Flutter Dev Camp to run in London. So talking about which, John will be seeing, if you're interested, come to JoyCon London. We'll be running a Flutter trek, and John's going to be there speaking. Thanks.
Yes, I will be there.
Cool. And also one other thing real quick, Google developer groups. If you were one of the organizers for Google developer groups in the North American region, you would be going to California in November for the summit. But if you're not out there helping the community and helping build community and helping teach the community, you're going to be stuck at home. So
talking about teaching, GDG. That's where we need to go.
Yes. I got my golden ticket for that already. GDE, I get to go.
See you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.